Being a clergy person is at times an odd profession. Along with the incredible privilege of walking with people during the highest and lowest times of their lives, there is a certain amount of cranky and crazy in the mix. There's also a healthy dose of wading through the muck of our common humanity. If you get a group of clergy talking, sooner or later the conversation will turn to their experiences officiating at weddings. Someone in the group will relate a moving story of an estranged family reconciled at the wedding of their son or daughter. Someone else will also tell of great-grandmother's tears of joy as she sees the next generation grown to adulthood and entering married life. And inevitably, someone will talk about the parent with never-ending demands and unrealistic expectations of the wedding party fighting through the rehearsal. Of course, no wedding ceremony ever goes exactly to plan. Weddings seem somehow to bring out the extremes in people, the best and the worst. It does not take too many marriage ceremonies for clergy to learn that. Indeed, we all know it, with all the reality TV shows in recent years that have focused on these challenges. Bridezilla, Groomzilla, Parentzilla, Wedding Plannerzilla. Jesus knows the impact of weddings too, according to our story today. It's not for nothing that the teacher who generally used well-known parts of common life to make his points sets this lesson at a wedding feast. A feast where everyone is already anxious, trying their hardest to look and act their best, and vying for the best places. At first glance, this story appears to be a straightforward lesson in the virtues of courtesy and hospitality, both very important in first century Palestine. When you are invited by someone to a wedding banquet, Jesus tells us, do not sit down at the place of honor. After all, there may be some more distinguished guests who outrank you. Choose instead the lower places at the table, he advises, so that when your host comes, he or she may say to you, friend, move up higher. Common sense, we say, nodding our heads in agreement. Just good manners. But Jesus, of course, is no etiquette coach, no first century manners. He has far more important things on his mind than table etiquette and protocol. Jesus knows that our selfish or self-promoting instincts are not confined to wedding banquets and the dinner table. And that is what he's talking about today. It has always been the part of human nature for people to act in their own interest, sometimes managing to look like they are aiding the needs and wants of others at the same time. After all, Adam Smith, the founder of modern capitalism and the free market system, put self-interest at its heart. The engine, the driving force of the modern economy, as Smith envisioned it, is taking care of our own selves, our personal needs and wants first. Those are strong forces pulling us towards putting ourselves before everybody else. As one bumper sticker puts it, it's about me. At one level, of course, there's nothing wrong with this. Some social scientists suggest that it is an unavoidable part of human evolution. Every creature has a natural tendency to work for its own survival, and we are no exception. Flight attendants warn us to secure our own oxygen mask before assisting others. Therapists tell us to be sure we are getting our own needs met before we seek to serve the needs of others. And we are all learning the importance of self-care, taking daily responsibility for our own wellness and well-being. It is healthy and important to take care of ourselves, as many of us have learned the hard way. Do not give what you do not have. As Jesus talks to us this morning, I do not believe that he is telling us not to take care of ourselves. He himself modeled taking time away from his ministry to keep his life centered upon the fundamental source of life, his relationship with God. I think that Jesus is talking about something deeper than the daily responsibility to care for our own health. All who exalt themselves will be humbled, he concludes, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. That's not something we see very much in the headlines and trending memes of the United States in 21st century America. Our culture tells us daily of human self-centeredness, greed, egotism, and pride. That is not Jesus' world. That is not the way things are in the kingdom, the reign of God. In Jesus' world, the upside-down, topsy-turvy world of the gospel, everything is turned around. The humble are the exalted ones. The poor are the rich. The blind are the ones who see. And it's not about me or you after all. There is wisdom here for us if we will hear it. A wisdom that I suspect many of you already know. Because at some time, some point in every life, rugged self-reliance fails us all. If I was to stop the sermon right now and ask you to share your stories about that, I think that many of you would have tales to tell. Ultimately, self-sufficiency turns out to be an illusion. And a life centered on ourself as number one is exposed for the booby prize that it is. For we all depend on one another, whether we recognize it or not. And whether we like it or not, we all depend on God. More than that, Jesus insists that it's only by accepting our sheer dependence on God and others that we will come to realize our own true worth and value. Only in humbling ourselves can we approach the one who poured out everything for us, choosing to be humbled on the cross. This is the paradox and the challenge of the gospel. The kingdom, the reign of God of which Jesus so often speaks, is a country at odds with our everyday world. It does not champion the self-centered values of the United States of America in the 21st century. In the spiritual realm of God's kingdom, survival of the fittest takes on a whole new meaning. And the second law of thermodynamics no longer applies. There is no limit, no end to the energy of God's love. It goes on forever. The resurrection of the righteous, as Jesus calls it in today's gospel, reveals our true and genuine nature. And we will be paid not in ever higher salaries and exalted titles, but in the only currency that counts, the love that God has for us and which we share with each other. Any couple who survived the wedding and go on to a happy married life learns firsthand the lesson of Jesus' parable today. Soon enough, they will come to know the meaning of selfless giving, of caring for the other. Soon enough, they will glimpse the kingdom at play in spouse and children. They are not alone. Life is filled with those lessons whether we are married or not. As Jesus tells us, the kingdom is close at hand. So this morning, I pray with the writer of Hebrews, let mutual love continue. Now that would make a great bumper sticker worthy of the kingdom.
Amen.